Hey YouTubers, American Samurai again, back with a quick book review. Yeah, I expect a lot of the books right now just to be comic related because that's just what I'm reading right now. Finally finished up DC Showcase presents The Martian Manhunter. I'm putting the thing for Christmas, so I'm putting a gold seal on most of the books I've been reading. This reprints pretty much I think all of the Martian Manhunter Detective Comics run, including Batman's first encounter with the Martian, which isn't the Martian Manhunter, but establishes the idea of Martians and the Martian Manhunter Corps. And this is pretty interesting. Now, the Detective Comics era of the Martian Manhunter is split. Best way to describe it is split in two halves. We have the original Martian Manhunter, who shows up in a Batman story. And that's the only time you'll see Batman in this book. And that Martian Manhunter is not John Jones. I've actually reviewed that story if you want to look that one up. And that is Batman 87, The Manhunter from Mars, which was in August-September 1953 issue of Detective Comics, which introduces the concept of the Martian Manhunter. And that one is different from John Jones, as he is more Batman-like, as he doesn't have powers, but tends to use gadgets. I don't know if that's because he idolizes Batman, or they haven't established the idea that Martians, like Superman, get their powers under the Earth's yellow sun and lower gravity. They seem to take the Edgar Rice Burroughs thing that humans get powers on Mars, and if a Martian would come to Earth, they will get powers by coming to Earth. Because it's established in this comic, when the Martian Manhunter builds Rocket Club Mars, that humans gain powers on Mars. So we're going by Edgar Rice Burroughs' theory that if a human were on Mars, they get superpowers, where Martians would be normal. But if Martian comes to Earth, they get superpowers. It should be noted, either way, the Martians still have shape-shifting powers, whether they're on Mars or Earth. And this is before the current Justice League canon, where it's established that John Jones is the last Martian. That was later Richard Frieden changed, so you would get like McGann, who is his niece, but is also a white Martian. The white Martian that would come in later. There's a whole backstory with John Jones that I'm not familiar with. There's a podcast, The Idle Head of Diablo, by Diablo Frank. He is like a Martian Manhunter expert. He can probably go into more detail than I ever could. But what I can tell you, the book has been two eras. The first era is John Jones having his full gamut of powers, and he switches between John Jones and John Jones. He switches between the human detective and the Martian Manhunter. And Tim sees his powers. He transforms into John Jones, goes invisible, uses his powers, and nobody knows the Martian Manhunter's there. But then later on, and the stories are kind of samey, but towards the let's see here, later on in the book, I'm gonna find the particular story, because there's one story where things change, and you actually get really glad about it towards the end here. Let's see. It's a nice change. A lot of stories, they keep up. There's certain tropes they keep the same. Like one day a year, the Martian Manhunter loses his powers and becomes human. They do that same storyline multiple times. sort of establishing it as a tradition, which I think is a nice touch. Let's see here. I can't remember which is which here. Earth for day, Ordeal of Fire, Thief with Superpowers. Is that one it? Might be. I really should have made a note about which one. Oh, the Martian Convict. Here it is. I think that's it. Issue Detective Comics 234, 1956. I think is where everything changes. I think that's where the Martian Manhunter meets another Martian who comes to Earth, but he's been given a pill that makes it so he can still use his powers, but he can't use his powers when he's invisible. And that Martian subjects John Jones to that same chemical. So that means John Jones has to use all his powers as the Martian Manhunter in public, which changes the dynamic of the stories greatly, which I'm appreciative of, because it means he has to act as a Martian Manhunter in public, which makes the Martian Manhunter persona known to people actually in the city, making the Martian Manhunter similar to Superman as that of a local hero to them. Though they also often play with the weakness of fire in the story a lot. That's a big trope in these stories. I think Diablo Frank, who did the Martian Manhunter blog, says eventually the John Jones persona is discarded completely in a later storyline, but during the Detective Comics era, he keeps it. At least in everything I read, he keeps it. I have to say my favorite stories, if I was to pick them, during the Invisible Detective era, I have to say probably The Case of the Magic Baseball, The Four Sons of Doom. That was a fun one. And then after John Jones, he has to start using his powers more openly, I'd say The Challenge of the Masked Avenger, The Mixed Up Martian Powers, John Jones's Kid Brother. That was a fun one. And the last series of them that are in here, I would have to say The Crown King of Mount Olympus and The Girl Hero Contest are probably my favorite ones. Overall, I give this book a 5 out of 5. It was fun to reread. I'm glad I finally finished it. And I would recommend, if you can find it at a good price, it's worth checking out, especially if you've never read the Martian Manhunter solo comics. Is it a bit of a slow read? Yeah. And some of the stuff is repeated. It took me a while to get through, but I'm glad I reread it. And hopefully the next time I have a book review, it'll be something I've not read before. Alright, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon if you're new. Keep your feet on the ground and your nose in a book, and I'll see you next time right here on Bucky749.